Hello everybody, my name is Starrapter. Welcome to my channel. This is another episode of This Week in Star Wars Canon. If you're new to Star Wars Canon, basically what that means is it's everything that has to tie into the movies. So we got the TV series, we got the novels, we got the comics, and we got the video games. With this week, it brought us another episode of Star Wars Rebels, Season 3, titled Hera's Heroes. So what is this episode about? It's about Hera going back to her home planet of Ryloth. She's linking up with her father, Cham, who has been leading a resistance on this planet for years. Ever since the Clone Wars, if you watch the series, he was actually featured in there. So basically what happens in this episode is Cham tells Hera that he left their family heirloom back in their home, which has recently been taken over by the Emperor. So Hera goes back there with the help of Ezra in disguise as a scout trooper, which is pretty cool. They go back there. They think it's going to be an easy mission to get this thing and bring it back. It's got a lot of significance, personal value to Hera, but they get tangled up with Thrawn. But in the end, Thrawn kind of lets them go with this thing, and the rebels go on their merry way with another small victory. So getting into my positives of this episode, things I really enjoyed a lot were, first off, right from the get-go, we have this really cool action scene, evocative kind of Return of the Jedi. You got these indigenous species that the Twi'leks ride on called the Blurgs. And you got the speeder bikes trying to take them out, and it's really cool because, they're scout troopers. So, again, here we are getting closer to the original trilogy. There's not scout troopers in A New Hope, but we know these troopers are stationed, where their climate permits them to be in certain suits of armor. So I really like that connective tissue. And going a step further into my next point, I really liked how Ezra's actually a scout trooper. He takes over that gear, fits him pretty well. That's really cool. And another thing, even though this is a Hera's episode, we did get the backstory of Chopper. Now, this was mentioned by Dave Filoni at Star Wars Celebration back in July, but we actually get it in canon now that Chopper was part of a Y-Wing regiment flying over Ryloth in the Clone Wars, and he crash landed, so he actually comes across the same Y-Wing, and he remembers it, and he kind of stands still. Like, it's kind of a little of emotional impact there with Chopper. Even though he's a droid, you can still feel for him. He's got a lot of memories there. Another thing they did great with this episode was really what Cham is best with, which is guerrilla fighting. Now, basically, last season that we had an episode of Cham, he wasn't really doing too much guerrilla fighting, but then we go back to Season 3, here we are, and he's living up to his name because, as you might have known, you hardcore Canon fans, we had Lords of the Sith, which heavily featured Cham, and basically he's the same character in that than he is in this one as well. I know he was a little bit different of characterization in last season because at that point, the creators of him on Rebels weren't really talking with the author, Paul S. Kemp, so they didn't have a lot of continuity as far as personality is concerned. But another thing I really enjoy was Thrawn in this episode knocked it out of the park. We get that speech, to defeat an enemy, you must know them. And he goes through it all, and he's looking at the art of Hera. He's looking at that portrait, and he's calculating. You got that other Imperial officer that just wants him dead, and Thrawn is saying, look, you gotta have patience. You can find out so much about a person through the art, just like he was in the Legends novels, Heir to the Empire and all those great novels. And another thing about Thrawn, even though he seems like he's such a calm and collected character, he does get really angry for like 3 seconds at this officer, to the point where I actually just kind of jump back a little bit, like, holy crap, man, this guy can be absolutely vicious and extremely scary at points. So that was really cool. And I don't know if you guys picked up on this, but this is my theory, and you can yell at me in the comments if you want, but that music with Thrawn seemed very similar to Snoke's music in The Force Awakens. And yeah, I'm going to throw this out there. I might make a video on it later. I theorize that Thrawn is Snoke. Yeah, you can fire me in the comments to go ahead. But, I don't know. I think it's kind of funny because everybody's throwing around these Snoke theories. And so far, I'm the only one who I've ever heard of coming up with that theory. But I'm getting a little bit far from myself right now. Last thing I want to talk about is Canon at the end there when they're rescuing Hera and Ezra. You know, they set up that charge on the palace, or I guess the home, whatever you want to call it, goes off. They're getting away. You see Canon just out there on the landing deck, and he actually force catches, or force grips, whatever you want to call it, a missile from one of those AT-ATs, not an AT-AT, one of those walkers. I forget the name right now. And he forces it back at it in midair. I thought that was absolutely badass. But guys, that's going to do it for this episode of Rebels. What did you think of it? Let me know in that comment section right down there. Unfortunately, we didn't get any Marvel Star Wars comics this week. It seems like anymore their strategy is to give us 2 or 3 at a time and then give us weeks breaks, which I don't really like that too much. Just give us an issue a week. That'd be nice. Some consistency. But anyway, I'm Starrapter. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always. So, if you liked the video, then make sure you go ahead and hit that thumbs up symbol. And if you like this video, please hit that subscribe button down below. Doing so will help you stay up to speed on all of my latest content. Speaking of which, there's a recent video right over there. I'm also on social media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Starrapter. So what are you waiting for? Let's get talking pop culture.